Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography based here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. This review is a total change of pace from my usual photography gig, as I recently purchased an aerial drone for my real estate aerial photography to give me a leg up on the competition, and frankly to save a whole lot of money versus renting a helicopter to get pretty similar results. Well, late last year came the Phantom 2 Vision, which brought first-person viewability and affordability to the drone market, but it had some important compromises to go along with its relatively low price. Specifically, the video quality was really good, but it just wasn't all that stable, especially if there was any wind outside at all. Well, now DJI has really upset the apple cart with the new Phantom Vision 2 Plus, as they now brought high-definition, smooth, and high-quality aerial video and photography via a new stability gimbal in a nice and compact and relatively affordable package that's ready to go mainstream. But should you run out and buy one? Well, let's find out. So, you shoot a lot of real estate photography and you want to up your game and give yourself a competitive advantage by offering aerial photography in your respective marketplace. You already know that renting a helicopter or an airplane can run several $100s per hour, and a big commercial-grade aerial drone to fly your DSLR camera around can run into the tens of thousands of dollars. So what's an aspiring aerial real estate photographer to do? Well, the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus offers what could be the best of all worlds: solid and buttery smooth video quality, decent photos with unique perspectives, and a camera that Photoshop actually recognizes with an actual lens profile correction. But is it good enough for commercial work? Now, before we get onto this review, I need to offer up a brief disclaimer. I'm reviewing the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus from a professional real estate photography perspective, and how utilizing this tool can give you, the real estate photographer and real estate videographer, a leg up against his or her competition in your respective marketplace. I don't use drones for fun, though I can see why you'd want to use a device like this for fun. I did buy this to enhance my offerings to my clients, so keep that perspective in mind as we review the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus quadcopter. I'm going to attempt to break it down much in the same way that I would break down a camera lens that I've reviewed in the past. The only thing that really doesn't apply is focus speed and accuracy, as the Phantom Vision 2 Plus has a fixed focal length lens and, as far as I can tell, a pretty small f-stop. Not sure exactly what that f-stop is, as it's not adjustable, and I can't seem to find any spec out there that tells me. But it must be narrow, as everything in the scene is in focus. Therefore, instead of focus speed and accuracy, we're going to replace that aspect of the review with ease of flight and camera operation. So now with that out of the way, let's get on to the review. Okay, so first up, we're going to take a walk around the Phantom Vision 2 Plus and examine its build quality. And it definitely looks like something you might find at Toys R Us, or something that maybe the North Korean Army might consider military grade, but the rest of us will definitely call it consumer grade. In fact, it's even kind of toy-like. It's reasonably lightweight, coming in at just under 3 pounds. In fact, it's 2 pounds and 11 ounces to be exact. It's made out of a lightweight plastic that feels kind of brittle. DJI also includes a bunch of spare propellers, probably assuming that they're likely to break. And based on my experience with the Phantom Vision 2, the props do break, so you may want to stock up on some spares. The Phantom itself hasn't changed all that much over the last couple of generations visually, but what is different this time around is there are a few important things that have changed on the inside. Specifically, it can now be controlled from as far away as 500 to 700 meters. That's roughly 1,500 to 2,100 feet in an open environment. A city environment, the range is going to be a little bit shorter. Top speed this time around is now just under 35 miles an hour. DJI, doesn't recommend flying it at that speed, but it's available if you want it. And most importantly, the camera has been outfitted with a 3-axis gimbal for video stability, which is the real game changer here. In fact, the difference in video quality goes from an obvious consumer product with the Vision 2 to first-rate professional grade. In fact, the improvement in video quality is so much better than the Vision 2 that it just can't be described in words. You really have to see the difference to understand how great it really is. It's amazing. Now, on the downside, I personally just wish that the body were made out of a slightly higher grade of plastic and that the gimbal mechanism were a bit less flimsy than it is. But in order to balance the adequate amount of flying time, you have to make the body as lightweight as possible. So in that sense, the Vision 2 Plus is built pretty well, given its relatively low price point. That said, a slightly higher grade of plastic would give us some sense of confidence that this thing could survive a low-flying accident, which truthfully can and frankly will happen. So for build, it's nice, but it's not perfect. But again, given its price point, it's pretty good. So we're going to give it a 9 out of 10 for build quality. So up next is ease of flight and camera operation. One of the really neat things about the Phantom Vision 2 Plus is how much time and effort went into the camera and flight interfaces. It takes a little bit of time getting used to it, but I was surprised at how quickly I became competent at flying the Vision 2 Plus. The hardest part about it is getting used to looking at the drone when it's in the air and looking at the camera view at the same time. And if things get turned around, left becomes right and right becomes left. And if you're in tight quarters, you can get into trouble really fast because it's easy to get your spatiality and sense of direction completely turned around. And don't kid yourself, if you crash, these props are spinning at a very high rate of speed and it could really hurt somebody. Seriously, keep that in mind. That said, before long, you'll find yourself shooting straight up in the air and taking sharp banks and steep pitches with relative ease. This time around, the new gimbal also offers the ability to point the camera from 0 to 90 degrees, which means you can point the camera straight down, something the previous generation did not do. And it's a really useful feature. The iPhone camera interface app is intuitive, and there are a lot of camera control options for you professionals out there. I'm actually one of those, so I kind of like how much control I have over the camera. For example, you have a control over image quality, exposure compensation, ISO, the ability to shoot in RAW, etc. All which are controlled from the app downloadable from the Apple Store or from the Android Store. My only real nit about the camera operation is the amount of time it takes to actually take a photo. It seems like forever. You press the shutter button and the digital aperture ring closes and you wait and wait. And it seems like forever. It's really only about 5 or 6 seconds, but if you want to shoot rapidly, it's all but impossible. Now, you can set up the camera to shoot 3 or 5 frames at once. I just wish the single shot worked a lot better and a lot faster. So I'm hoping for a firmware upgrade to address that concern. The video function, on the other hand, seems to work in real time and very effectively. I strongly recommend buying a second battery, as each battery only gives you about 25 minutes of flight time. Moreover, I've read in a couple of places that if you run the battery down to, say, 10% or less, the drone will literally just shut down mid-flight and crash. So it's advisable to reel the drone in with about 15% battery life remaining and have some spares waiting in the wings. Now, knowing those shortcomings going in, then it's pretty intuitive and easy to use. So we're going to give the flight control and camera operation a 9.5 out of 10. So next up is optical quality and the quality of the results. Truth be told, the still image quality is really good, but what really sets the Vision 2 Plus apart is the impact that the now included gimbal has on video quality. What the gimbal does is as the drone gets knocked around in the wind or when you turn left or turn right, the gimbal kicks in and keeps the camera level and focused without any noticeable herky-jerky motions that were really prevalent and very distracting in the previous Phantom 2 Vision. The gimbal acts like a life-sized anti-shake system and it works remarkably well. Now, on the downside, to my eye, there's a bit too much moire in both the still shots and the videos. So if you shoot real estate, be aware of that, as moire will likely rear its ugly head on rooftops and power lines and other pattern surfaces, and it can be really distracting. Hopefully, there'll be some kind of filter that you'll be able to attach to this thing in the future to reduce that. Now, I've read that the image quality and the optics are better on the GoPro, but truthfully, I own both of them, and I don't see much difference between the both of them. The bottom line is I'm really impressed with the results, but as with all of my reviews, it's one thing to tell you about the optical quality. It's probably better if I just show you the optical quality. The next minute or so will be a series of stills and video clips taken with the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, and the video quality is downright excellent. So last up is value. When you consider that you used to have to buy a gimbal separately and for a lot more money than what's included with the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus, then the Vision 2 Plus is looking like a really good value. When you combine the smooth cinematic quality of the video along with solid still photography capabilities, and by the way, this isn't to say that the photographic capabilities of the Vision 2 Plus are top-notch, especially when compared to a Micro Four Thirds or DSLR camera, because they're not. As the photos aren't without their issues. That is, there is some noise and some sharpness issues, but they're really excellent when you consider how small the lens and the sensor have to be in order to work with the Phantom. And of course, there's also that annoying photo taking processing delay, when you push the button and it seems like forever for it to take the picture. Well, those nits aside, the Vision 2 Plus still stands out in a crowded field of drone providers as an excellent value. DJI also includes a 4GB micro SD card. That's great for starting out, but in reality, you're probably going to invest in a bigger or larger memory card. But in the end, the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus is an all-inclusive setup of solid video and still quality, a good flight time of 25 minutes, a gimbal that does a great and amazing job of smoothing out video, and all for the reasonable price of $12.99. It's $13.69 with an extra battery. And at that inclusive price, it's really hard to beat the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus for value. Now, competitors are sure to follow, but for right now, the DJI has a spotlight to itself. So for value, it's the best current deal in the marketplace. That is current as of May 2014. And as such, for value, it earns a 10 out of 10. Okay, it's that time again. Time to draw some conclusions and summarize this review of the DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus. The build quality. It's made out of plastic and it looks like a toy. But really, who cares if the resulting images and video give you and your clients what they're looking for? The biggest and most important modification to the Phantom is the new gimbal that does such an amazing job at smoothing out video, you'd swear you were videoing from a crane and not from an aerial drone. However, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that we wish the Phantom were made out of slightly more robust materials. But that would have undoubtedly cut down on the flight time of the batteries with the increase in weight. Overall, though, we felt the build quality was really pretty solid, and we gave it a 9 out of 10. Just don't drop it, and be sure to reel the Phantom in when you hit 15% power or less remaining on the batteries. Next up was ease of flight and camera operation. The flight controls are surprisingly intuitive and relatively easy to learn. You'll be flying like a pro in no time. It's really responsive to inputs, but just be careful as you can overcompensate a bit too easily at times. One of the neat things is if you fly out of range or if the transmitter loses power, the Phantom will, via GPS, return to where it took off, which is reassuring knowing that it won't fly away and be lost forever. What we didn't like, and this is probably problematic with all first-person viewer drones, was that it's really easy to get turned around and suddenly right is left and left is right, and you can get into trouble pretty quickly, especially if you're going to operate the drone in tight quarters. To reduce the risk of property damage, you may want to purchase the prop guards if you find that you need the drone on a regular basis in a tight spot. Camera operation is also simple and intuitive. If you're a pro, you're going to recognize the manual controls you'll have over the camera to give your images a bit more punch. DJI has done a really good job here. We gave the ease of flight and camera operation a 9.5 out of 10. Optical quality and the quality of the results. The still image quality is really good, but what really sets the Vision 2 Plus apart is the impact of the now included gimbal has on the video quality. I think I've made that point about 10 times so far in this review, but it's such a marked improvement in quality that you simply can't say it enough. On the downside, there's a bit too much moire, so if you shoot real estate, be aware of that, as moire will rear its ugly head in rooftops, power lines, and other patent surfaces, and it can be really distracting. Hopefully there'll be some kind of filter that will be attached in the future. I've read that the image quality and the optics are a bit better on the GoPro, and they probably are, but I'm not convinced that the resulting images of the Phantom will mean that much to your clients, as they look really good. The bottom line is that the results of the Phantom are impressive enough. We gave it an 8.5 out of 10 for optical quality, for stills, and a 9.5 out of 10 for the quality of the results, specifically with the video and video smoothness. Value. As the first to market with an all-inclusive solution to an aerial video and photography at a really reasonable price, then it's hard to knock the value of the Phantom Vision 2 Plus. All the improvements are nice, but the gimbal and resulting smoothness in the video quality changes everything. The original Phantom 2 brought affordable droning to the masses, but the Phantom Vision 2 Plus extends that reach into the realm of professionals with video quality that's good enough to compete with some really high-end stuff. Is it DSLR-like? No, not really. but it's really good and really smooth for most applications. It's good enough. So good in fact that your audience is unlikely to know that it was shot with something so relatively affordable. So for value, we gave it a 10 out of 10. Overall, the Phantom Vision 2 Plus gets a 46.5 out of 50 and our highly recommended rating. The final word. If you're a real estate photographer and you're wanting to set yourself apart from competitors while simultaneously avoiding the high cost of hiring a helicopter to get similar results, or a drone for your DSLR that will run into the tens of thousands of dollars, then the Phantom Vision 2 Plus is the drone for you. With smooth high-definition quality video, solid still image quality, reasonable build, and solid flight time, the Phantom Vision 2 Plus is one of the best deals going in aerial photography and videography. It's not cheap, but it offers a lot of value in a small, intuitive package at a reasonable price. Oh, and one other thing, wherever you go in public with this thing, you're going to draw a crowd of gawkers and question askers. So if you don't like bringing a lot of attention to yourself, you're definitely going to be challenged with the Phantom Vision 2 Plus. This is Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in beautiful, sunny Naples, Florida. If you like these reviews, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, happy flying.